Give your eyes a rest, and let your mind wander. No screens, just sound and imagination. Let the story begin. Ilara woke up to the sensation of wind brushing against her face, but this wind didn't belong to her bedroom back home. Instead, she found herself lying on soft moss beneath an enormous ancient tree. Around her, the forest whispered in a language she couldn't understand, shimmering with faint magical lights. A glowing mark on her arm pulsed faintly, a crest she didn't recognize. Villagers, cloaked in garments of a bygone era, peered from a distance, whispering hurriedly. "The healer, the legend, she has come," one of them muttered. Confused and overwhelmed, Ilara rose to her feet, feeling both fear and a strange sense of destiny. She had been pulled from her world into a place that seemed both beautiful and dangerous. She had no idea how or why, but something told her she was expected here and her blood might be more than just her own. Ilara's confusion turned to shock when the royal emissaries arrived. Clad in ceremonial armor, they declared her a divine weapon sent by fate. Her blood, they explained, possessed miraculous healing properties capable of curing fatal injuries and deadly diseases. Crown Prince Alaric, a young man with sharp features and an air of authority, observed her quietly. Unlike the others, his gaze softened when he saw her fear. Yet, Ilara soon learned the price of her gift. She was to heal soldiers in the royal war camps, her freedom stripped as she became a living tool of the kingdom. Despite the grandeur of the castle and the warm attention of Alaric, she felt trapped. Each drop of her healing blood was a reminder of her captivity. Yet, when Alaric approached her privately, offering comfort and kindness that none of the nobles dared, a subtle bond began to form. She sensed his sympathy, his admiration, but duty would always bind him to the throne, keeping their hearts in a fragile, painful balance. Alaric noticed Ilara long before she realized it. In the quiet halls of the royal palace, while the servants scurried and the nobles whispered, his gaze often lingered on her, observing the way her hands trembled as she healed, the way her eyes reflected both fear and courage. One evening, he found her alone in the small courtyard, the moonlight casting silver patterns on her pale skin. "You shouldn't be here," he said softly, though his voice carried warmth. "I needed air." "Away from the palace," Ilara replied, bowing her head but not looking away. Alaric approached cautiously, aware of the delicate balance between duty and desire. He offered small kindnesses, a gentle smile, a reassuring nod, a quiet word that made her heart flutter in a way she hadn't felt since arriving in this world. Over time, a subtle romance began to bloom between them. Shared glances, fleeting touches, and whispered conversations in hidden corners of the palace created an invisible thread connecting their hearts. Yet Alaric's duty to the throne was heavy. He could not choose her as his bride. The expectations of the kingdom were a cage around them both. Ilara understood the impossibility, but her heart refused to listen to reason. Each moment with him, however brief, deepened her feelings, tethering her soul to his in a silent, unspoken bond. The palace referred to Ilara as the Holy Vessel, a title that carried both reverence and fear. Every noble saw her as a resource to exploit, a living weapon, capable of healing wounds that no ordinary medicine could touch. Ilara's days became a whirlwind of endless duty. Soldiers from distant battlefields were brought to her. Poisoned generals and sick nobles demanded her blood, her power, her very energy. There was no reprieve, no private moment to breathe, no freedom to choose her own path. Alaric watched helplessly, unable to shield her from the relentless demands placed upon her. When he tried to stay near, his advisors reminded him of the constraints of duty. A prince must secure the kingdom, not indulge personal feelings. Gradually, he began to distance himself, leaving Ilara feeling isolated, trapped within golden halls that gleamed with beauty but imprisoned her spirit. Every bow she offered, every polite word she spoke, reminded her that she was no longer simply a girl from another world. She had become a tool, a healer enslaved by politics, a sacred asset to the royal court. Her heart ached for freedom, for a life beyond the palace walls, and for the prince whose presence both comforted and tormented her. The invisible chains of duty bound them both, and Ilara knew that the coming days would test not only her strength, but her very will to survive. Ilara could no longer bear the suffocating chains of the palace. On a stormy night, lightning tearing through the sky and rain drenching the streets, she made her decision. With nothing but the clothes on her back and the tiny pouch holding her few belongings, she slipped out of the palace unnoticed. The forest loomed ahead, dark and forbidding. Humans rarely dared venture into its depths, but Ilara had no choice. Every step she took seemed to echo her heart's wild rhythm. Strange glowing eyes blinked in the darkness, watching her silently. Twigs snapped beneath her feet, yet no predator revealed itself. Her heart raced with both fear and exhilaration. For the first time since arriving in this strange world, Ilara felt the pulse of freedom. The forest was untamed, mysterious, and dangerous, but it was hers to move through, not the palace's to confine her. As Ilara pushed deeper into the forest, she stumbled upon a clearing bathed in silver moonlight. There, lying amid crushed ferns and broken branches, was a breathtakingly beautiful figure, a Fey warrior with golden hair and delicate, pointed ears. His armor was tattered, and deep gashes marked his chest and arms. Startled, he leapt to his feet, eyes blazing with suspicion. "Stay back!" he growled, his voice melodic yet fierce. "I'm not here to harm you," Ilara stammered, stepping cautiously forward. Her heart ached at the sight of his injuries. Though terrified, she reached out, her blood instinctively warm and tingling with magic. As her fingers grazed his wounds, a golden light pulsed from her veins, knitting torn flesh and easing his pain. The Fey warrior gasped, a mixture of shock and relief in his eyes. You have power," he whispered, voice trembling. "Humans rarely possess such magic." Ilara nodded, unsure if he could trust her, unsure if she could trust him. Yet something in his gaze, the vulnerability beneath the warrior's fierce exterior, spoke to her heart. Against his better judgment, he allowed her to lead him from the clearing toward the deeper woods, seeking safety. Little did Ilara know, this encounter would bind her fate not only to this mysterious Fey warrior, but to an entire hidden world waiting in the shadows of the forest. Kale, still weak from his injuries, led Ilara through hidden paths of the forest. "You must understand," he said with a hoarse voice, "my people are hunted. Most of the realm despises us. We are few, mostly male, and we live in secrecy." Ilara listened, her heart heavy. She had always known that this world was dangerous, but she had not expected such secrets. I just wanted to escape," she murmured. "I never meant to interfere with your people." Kale shook his head, wincing as a sharp pain ran through his side. "No, fate brought you here. Perhaps you are the first human they can trust." Despite his cautious tone, he guided her to a clearing where faint lights shimmered among the trees. There were huts carved into the roots of enormous, ancient trees, and soft music of wind chimes filled the air. It was a village, hidden and alive with magic. Though Kale's people eyed her warily, there was a quiet awe in their gaze. Ilara's presence, her glowing mark, and the mysterious power of her healing blood drew attention she could not hide. Ilara stepped into the village fully, her eyes widening at the sight. Moonlit flowers bloomed in impossible colors, casting a soft glow over the inhabitants. Small streams sparkled like liquid silver, and trees whispered secrets with the wind. The Fey were cautious at first, their golden eyes flickering with suspicion. But as they observed Ilara, some were drawn to her beauty, her gentle demeanor, and the aura of power she radiated. Kale introduced her slowly, explaining how she had saved him from death. Several young Fey warriors lingered nearby, their eyes filled with curiosity and admiration. Even the Fey leader, an imposing figure named Rylan, could not hide a flicker of intrigue. "A human, and yet she walks among us unafraid," he murmured. "Perhaps she is the one of legend." Ilara felt a mixture of wonder and unease. She had escaped one cage, only to enter another world full of eyes watching her every move. But unlike the palace, this place felt alive, magical, and free. And as she gazed at Kale, still seated nearby with a faint smile despite his injuries, she realized that perhaps fate had a reason for bringing her here. As days passed, the five warriors grew bolder in their attention toward Ilara, each subtle gesture helping her with a task, offering food, or standing guard nearby was a quiet claim of affection. Kale noticed their behavior, his golden eyes narrowing. "They are drawn to you, Ilara, more than they should be," he said, his voice low but tinged with protectiveness. Ilara felt a mixture of embarrassment and confusion. I don't know what to do," she whispered. "I can't return their feelings. I barely understand my own heart." Yet it was not just the young warriors who were affected. Rylan, the Phi leader, usually reserved and solemn, found himself watching her from a distance, unable to ignore the warmth that her presence brought. Even the normally wary villagers whispered among themselves, captivated by her kindness and her unusual power. Kale stayed close, always alert. He couldn't allow anyone to hurt her or take advantage of her. Yet as he observed the subtle glances and quiet competitions for her attention, he realized his own feelings were not so simple. Protectiveness was becoming something deeper. Tensions rose quietly, each Phi warrior testing Kale's patience, each interaction a delicate balance of respect, desire, and rivalry. Ilara, caught in the middle, felt her heart pulled in different directions, knowing she must tread carefully, lest she upset the fragile peace of this hidden village. One evening, under a sky lit with silver moonlight, Rylan led Ilara to the heart of the village, the sacred tree. Towering and ancient, its branches glowed faintly, pulsating with life. "This tree is the heart of our people," Rylan explained. "It grants strength, heals wounds, and protects us from corruption. Only the chosen may touch it without harm." Ilara approached cautiously, her fingers brushing the smooth bark. A warmth spread through her hands, and a soft golden light enveloped her, resonating with the mark on her arm. The village watched in awe, realizing that the prophecy might indeed be true. The human healer, the one of another world, was recognized by the very source of their life. Kale knelt beside her, his tail flicking nervously, golden eyes reflecting the tree's light. "It reacts to you," he whispered. "You are chosen, Ilara, chosen to protect, to heal, to save us." A sudden rustling in the nearby trees made her heart skip. The five warriors instinctively drew closer, protective stances forming around her. The tree's glow intensified, casting long shadows over the forest clearing. Ilara felt a surge of power, a connection she had never known. Her blood, her very life force, intertwined with the ancient magic of this world. That night, under the watchful gaze of the Phi and the sacred tree, Ilara realized that her journey had only just begun. Love, rivalry, danger, and destiny were all intertwined, and her choices in the coming days would shape the fate of an entire hidden world. Far beyond the borders of the Phi forest, Crown Prince Alaric learned of Ilara's escape. His obsession with her had grown, intertwining desire with a sense of entitlement. "She belongs to me," he muttered, pacing the marble floors of the palace. "No human or Phi shall keep her from her fate, or from me." Alaric sent scouts and soldiers deep into the forest, armed with enchanted weapons designed to track magical signatures. He cared little for the laws of man or nature. Ilara's blood, her very essence, called to him like a beacon. Meanwhile, back in the village, Kale sensed an ominous presence. "They're coming," he whispered to Ilara, eyes scanning the trees. The forest seemed to tense as if it too knew of the approaching danger. "We cannot allow them to take you," he added, a protective growl in his voice. Ilara's heart pounded. She had fled for freedom, yet it seemed that the human world, with all its greed and obsession, could not leave her alone. She glanced at Kale, seeing the golden glow in his eyes, and felt both comforted and burdened by the unspoken bond between them. At dawn, Alaric's soldiers reached the edge of the forest. The air was thick with tension, leaves trembling under the heavy march of armored feet. Kale rallied the five warriors, their glowing weapons ready, their bodies tense with anticipation. Ilara, standing at the center, felt the power in her blood stir. She touched Kale's arm, and a warmth spread through the warriors nearby, strengthening their bodies and sharpening their senses. Her gift, once only used for healing, now became a force to protect. The clash was swift and brutal. Arrows of light met steel, and roars of defiance echoed through the trees. Alaric's men were trained, ruthless, but they had not accounted for the magic of the sacred tree nor the unity of the Fae. Ilara moved among the wounded, her hands glowing as she healed them, empowering them to fight back. Kale fought fiercely by her side, his tail lashing, claws gleaming as he moved with superhuman agility. The soldiers underestimated the bond between human and Fae, between Ilara and the sacred tree. Slowly, the tide turned, and the attackers were forced to retreat, leaving a trail of smoke and shattered weapons behind. Breathing heavily, Ilara looked at Kale. "We did it! For now," she said, her voice trembling with both fear and exhilaration. Kale nodded, his eyes softening. "And there will be more battles," he warned. "But we will face them together." The forest settled again, but the knowledge of Alaric's obsession hung like a shadow, promising that the next encounter would be even more dangerous. Ilara understood that her heart, her powers, and her choices were now irrevocably tied to this magical world and its people. The forest was quieter than usual, but a creeping tension lingered. Kale's closest companion, the Fae leader Rylan, had gone to scout the northern ridge, where monstrous beasts had been seen. During the encounter, a cursed claw had grazed his arm, and he staggered back to the village, his movements sluggish and unsteady. Ilara sensed something was wrong immediately. The mark on Rylan's arm glowed ominously, a creeping darkness that seemed to drain his essence. "Rylan," she called, rushing forward. But as she touched him, the curse clawed at her energy, threatening to overwhelm her. Kale's tail lashed angrily. "Do not come near him," he growled, though he could see Ilara's healing potential was the only thing that could save their leader. With trembling hands, Ilara placed her palm on Rylan's chest. A warm golden light poured from her blood, wrapping around his body, battling the dark curse. Rylan's body trembled violently, the madness of the curse trying to seize him, but Ilara's power, pure and relentless, pulled him back. Slowly, the glow in his eyes softened, replaced by a deep, heartfelt gaze directed at her. In that moment, Rylan realized the depth of his feelings for her. He had fallen, completely and irrevocably. Kale watched from the side, his jaw tight, his heart conflicted. Though he had been the first to trust her and to feel the stirrings of love, seeing Rylan's eyes soften for Ilara ignited a pang of jealousy. The village was safe, but emotions ran dangerously high. That evening, the village gathered for the Festival of Moonlight, a celebration honoring the Fae's survival and connection to the sacred tree. Lanterns floated in the air, reflecting off the shimmering petals of enchanted flowers. Magic hung thick, warm, and alive. Ilara stood at the center, her presence commanding attention without effort. Her eyes met Kale's first, and a faint blush touched her cheeks. Around her, multiple Fae warriors whispered and glanced at her, each vying subtly for her favor. Even Rylan, though weakened by the curse, could not hide the longing in his gaze. "Do not be swayed by mere beauty," Rylan warned the younger warriors, though even his voice trembled with emotion. Ilara's heart wavered. She saw the warmth in Kale's golden eyes, the vulnerability in Rylan's gaze, and she felt the pull of her past with Crown Prince Alaric. Music floated on the air as Fae couples danced, and Ilara found herself swept into a small clearing surrounded by glowing trees. The sacred tree's energy pulsed softly beneath the ground, responding to her presence. She realized in that moment that she was not merely a healer, she was a beacon, a catalyst for the Fae's very survival. Yet amidst the celebration, tension lingered. Alaric's pursuit was far from over, and the feelings of three hearts, Kale, Rylan, and even the memory of the Crown Prince tangled around hers. The festival was not only a celebration, but a silent reminder. Love, loyalty, and destiny were about to collide in ways she could not yet foresee. Before dawn, a chilling wind swept through the forest. Ilara awoke to a distant, rhythmic pounding, the drums of war. Crown Prince Alaric had found the Fae village. His forces were vast, trained, and relentless, and his obsession with Ilara was clear. He would take her, no matter the cost. Kale and Rylan stood side by side, rallying the Phi warriors. She belongs to no human, Kale growled, his ears flicking nervously. Ryland's gaze softened as he glanced at Elara, then hardened with resolve. We fight not just for her, but for our survival. As the human army approached, Alaric himself appeared on the ridge, calling out, Elara, return with me. You are fated for the throne. His voice, commanding yet tinged with desperation, pierced her heart. Memories of their brief, tender moments surfaced, but she could not ignore the golden chains of politics that bound him. Elara stepped forward, raising her hands. Her blood glimmered faintly as she imbued the nearby Phi with protection, healing and empowering them simultaneously. I will not go back, she said firmly, her voice echoing across the village. I belong here. I fight for those who need me, not for crowns and titles. The battle began in earnest. Soldiers clashed with Phi warriors, magic sparked against steel, and the forest trembled. Alaric's eyes never left Elara, pleading and accusing all at once, yet she remained steadfast. Her heart had changed direction. Her allegiance was no longer to a crown, but to life, love, and the people she had chosen. After the skirmish, the village gathered around the sacred tree, its silver leaves glowing under the moonlight. The air was thick with magic, pulsing in rhythm with Elara's heartbeat. The tree sensed her decision, its energy enveloping her in warmth and light. A voice, ancient and resonant, whispered through the leaves, Elara, the choice is yours. Will you remain, or return to the world you once knew? The question struck her deeply. Every memory of the crown prince, every pang of lost love, weighed against the bonds she had formed here with Kale, Rylan, and the village. Touching the tree, she felt her own energy resonate with its magic. Her healing blood now amplified. She could empower the Phi, protect them, and even grant longevity. The village looked on in awe as her aura shimmered gold, signaling her acceptance of this destiny. Kale, standing beside her, felt a warmth unlike anything before. His admiration and love for her deepened. The bond between them was now tangible, strengthened by magic and trust. Rylan, though still in his weakened state, bowed his head in respect, acknowledging the path she had chosen. The trial was complete. Elara's heart had made its choice. She belonged here, among the Phi, where her power could flourish and her love could thrive. The sacred tree pulsed once more, as if affirming her fate. The healer of the Phi had been truly born. The sun rose pale and trembling over the forest, casting eerie shadows across the battleground. Crown Prince Alaric, consumed by obsession, led his army through the enchanted woods, determined to claim Elara and punish the Phi who dared protect her. Elara stood in the center of the Phi village, her glowing mark pulsing on her arm. Beside her, Kale, the first Phi she had saved, readied his weapons. Around them, the Phi warriors, empowered by the sacred tree and Elara's healing blood, bristled with anticipation. Alaric's soldiers stormed forward, steel clashing against enchanted defenses. Kale darted through the battlefield, cutting down foes while shielding Elara. Her hands glowed with crimson light as she healed the wounded, her energy flowing into the Phi like a river of strength. The battle was relentless. Alaric finally broke through the outer defenses, his eyes fixed on Elara. Elara, come with me, he roared, his sword gleaming. Elara lifted her chin, her aura flaring brilliantly. I am not yours, Alaric. I choose my own path. Kale leaped forward, blocking the crown prince, claws and sword slicing through the air. He met Alaric's furious gaze. She belongs with me, he growled, voice steady yet fierce. Realizing the bond between Elara and Kale was unbreakable, Alaric finally stepped back, fury and heartbreak warring in his expression. The Phi village stood victorious, the forest calm again, the sacred tree radiating protective light. Elara breathed deeply, her chest rising with relief. She looked at Kale, who gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. We did it, together, she whispered. Kale smiled, eyes glowing softly. Always, Elara, always. Peace returned to the forest. The village celebrated under the shimmering light of the sacred tree, a symbol of protection and renewal. Elara wore a gown woven from enchanted silk, the mark on her arm glowing faintly as she approached Kale. "Kale," she said, heart full, "I want to spend my life with you." Kale knelt before her, golden eyes tender, his ears twitching slightly. "And I want nothing more than to be by your side, Ilara," he replied, voice warm and low. They were married beneath the sacred tree, surrounded by the Fae who had grown to love and respect her. Magic filled the air, illuminating their vows with a soft, golden light. Later, in the quiet of the night, Ilara rested her head against Kale's shoulder. He wrapped his arm around her, tail flicking gently behind him. Moonlight filtered through the trees, casting silvery patterns around them as they shared a tender, lingering kiss. Their love endured, and in time, it brought new life children who carried both human and Fae magic, a living testament to courage, love, and the healer who crossed worlds. Thus, Ilara, the healer from another world, and Kale, the charming Fae, became a legend whispered through generations, a tale of bravery, choice, and the magic that binds hearts across realms. If this tale touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe. More stories await, only on Drama Tales.